7.6, support of DEQ grant resolution 28-2010.
All right, the city did a resolution back in December of 2010, basically to support a DEQ grant. Okay, due to all the changes, it kind of fell to the side. Mr. Parker from the University of Oregon, who works with this program, gave me a call and asked if we would still be interested in having them work with us. And what they do is they'll help us work with our total TMDL, which is our
total maximum daily load.
Thank you. Total maximum daily load, which is what we put in the river, okay, from the sewer plant. So basically, so what they will do, treat it. It's treated before we put it in the river. So anyway, what they will do is they'll work with staff on trying to put together policies, those kind of things. And all I'm asking is for consensus, because basically a resolution was done. So I'm just asking for consensus from the council to just continue. There will be a $7,500 in-kind match. Okay, so soft match. And that'll be staff time and those kind of things.
So if we don't get some help, we might have some one-eyed fish running around the...
I hope not, but yes. So anyway, basically I just need, I don't think I need a motion on this, just consensus.
This was already approved and we're just asking for continuation.
Yes.
Is there any further debate? Any objections? Hearing none, we will, by consensus, approve that.
Thank you.
Asterisk before this, we've asked to have the old business put on the agenda so that we don't lose track of it. Already started working on it about so how to see that there's the asterisk before those things that would be old business so that we know what they are.
So is that under 10.0 or?
Well, it would be 7.0. Actually, it would be
yes, it's still a 7.0 item. That is correct. Yes. Your Honor, is it all right if I just go through the report?
Sure.
Community Service Committee has discussed this matter, I guess, more than one time, a couple times. What is being recommended is that the rest area will be an extension of Green Waters Park up to the boat ramp and no farther. And this would be the southerly 2/3 of the rest area. So basically, if you drive into the rest area, you see where it says the pet area, the poop area, so to speak. We're gonna go about 20 feet south of that area, so that whole area is open for the motoring public, so that they can use the pet run there for their animals. So from there, all the way to the river, and then west to the boat ramp. Okay, and to make it a connection to Green Waters Park. The event that is used in the rest area will post signs in the rest area to ensure that there is no parking by event attendees in the rest area parking lot. So we're going to put the onus of the responsibility on the promoter. The event promoter will ensure that any paper products consumed by his or her attendees from the rest area bathroom will be replenished or reimbursed to the city. The public works foreman or one of his designees will tape off the areas of the rest area that will be available for the event with the event promoter or a representative of the promoter. The Community Services Committee is not recommending any additional charges for the use of the rest area. Additionally, the city will also be requiring a medical safety plan because of the event being so large. So they need to have some type of a plan on how they're going to extricate their folks to where the ambulance can get to them. Okay, so we haven't had that in the past, so we think that's necessary also. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Gomez, is On this map, is this area you're talking about is the one that's outlined with the red?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that takes up, maybe half of the area for the event, and the other half would be for the rest area. All right, let's have a vote and then we'll discuss it. Well, I guess there's something I would like to see in the motion, maybe. We discussed making this part of the park, since now we know that it actually does belong to the city. And I think, was that your intent in community services to make it part of the park? And without any additional, the fee for the park, if you enter the park, would include that area. Is that not what everybody's understanding? Okay, and okay. Is that clear enough for everybody? So I guess I'd entertain a motion to accept the
So,
recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, I would make that motion to accept the recommendations of the Community Service Committee in such that it, as what's been laid out, would be included in the definition of the Greenwater Park.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Forson, seconded by Councilor Baszler to include the area shown on the map as a part of Greenwater's Park. I'm going to paraphrase. Any further discussion?
Couple, and I like what the community services has done with the recommendations with one section. This process started with a discussion between the city and ODOT about city events, okay? And when I see, maybe semantics, but when I see a city event or city sanction or so on and so forth, to me that is, to sanction is to endorse something. And this is for lack of a better word, it is a rental property because we rent Greenwater Park. Now, if somebody had a house and you put renters in there and they're building meth labs or whatever, you're not endorsing that meth lab. So to me, it's not a city sanctioned or whatever. We basically rent the park, a city asset. In this case, we are renting a park that belongs to over 3,000 people. And what this does, as far as I can tell, is include roughly half of the rest area at no additional cost. At the moment, we are talking about one event because it's the only one that has a venue large enough to spill over into the rest area. But at some point in time, and this adventure thing out at the industrial park's a good example where it's going to bring in 500 people and so on and so forth. But at some point in time, as we create more destination type events, it's going to apply to more than one specific event. And I guess what I'm saying, a few meetings back, you submitted a revised permit, which some of us, myself included, thought was a bit extreme as far as some of the increases. But I think we're allowing additional public space at no cost. There should be a value on that public space, if that makes sense. I think if we're going to increase Greenwater Park to include half the rest area, we should be reflecting that in the cost of the permits. At the moment, it applies to one event, but at some point it should apply. And I'd be having the same conversation if it were Amy having the class over the weekend on beauticians cutting hair or any event. So it's not, for me, it's not personal because it's public property that throwing in an additional chunk, a pretty good chunk, but no additional cost. I think we get what you pay for, you use more, you pay more.
I guess the way I view this is we have a park, we charge different rates for different things. You rent the shelters or the big areas, that cost you one thing. If you're going to rent picnics, you don't charge for the picnic area. But we haven't really, other than having shelters and structures on the park, we haven't really broken the park into pieces and rented it in separate pieces. So it would be kind of bulky if we were to start doing that with this area as opposed
issue you're voting on now having anything to do with rent?
Pardon me?
I mean, right now you're voting on adding this to the park. Does that really have anything to do with what you're gonna rent it for next year or whatever?
Yes, what it says is, in the motion, is that we will rent it, we will include that as part of the park, and as, if somebody rents it, they'll rent it as if they were renting the entire park.
But I mean, you haven't really set a price as to what that's gonna be.
Yeah, it's already got a price on it.
Well, it says, one of the recommendations from the Community Services Committee, recommendation 6, is not recommending any additional charges for the use of the rest area. To me, if you go out and rent a 2-bedroom house, it's gonna cost a little bit less than renting a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house, same principle.
But if we change that on our form, that the entire park now, because that extra is added in there, so we're gonna add an additional $1,500 because of that extra space, then any other event that comes in there that wants the entire park,
Sure.
they're gonna have to pay that extra
Sure,
$5,
sure.
even though they're not gonna be using that.
Well, if you didn't do it that way,
Like our
you'd be
concerts in the park, when they rent the whole
but
space.
if you didn't do that way, if you were applying it to one event and not others, you'd be discriminating based on events. So yeah, it would be, instead of your what is it, 500 a day, it might be 550.
But they're not gonna be using that area. There's only the one event that's gonna be using that area.
But if they rent the entire park, they'll pay the price that they currently pay if they were renting the entire park, right?
Right.
And there's not many events that do rent the entire park that are big enough to do that.
Right.
Most people come in, they have weddings and things of that nature, so they rent a specific area of the park, like the shelter area or the community building or something of that nature. And it appears that as Oakridge becomes more popular for different kinds of venues, that Councilor Barkley's correct, is there'll probably be more demand on that area. Does not mean we can't at some point in time revisit that to see if our areas are being, that we can raise the rent or raise the rate at any time if it seems that we're not getting our money's worth. In other words, it's costing us more to maintain it than to have it moved.
And in fairness, I think it's responsible. I mean, the promoter is coming to the party as far as consumables and restrooms and that sort of thing. And I think it's responsible.
Mr. City Administrator.
A point of clarification with Councilor Clark. For example, I don't know why we're doing it, but for example, when someone was having an event at the amphitheater, they're being told they had to rent the whole park. Why? I don't know, okay? And our practice has been since this summer is if they want the amphitheater, it's just the amphitheater. If they want this corner, for some reason, I was told previously, if you had an event, you had to, so I broke it down. If you want this, that's what you get. If a family wants to have an event, well, there's a beer garden here, you let that family know. Sir, ma'am, there is a beer garden there, so I'm letting you know ahead of time. If you still want to rent it, go ahead. If you don't want to rent it, that's fine too. So I think that was part of it, why that was being done, but I believe as adults, we just let them know.
You said it yourself, the main reason is because if we're going to have a beer garden, they have people wandering into the beer garden area from other areas of the park. And I believe that some of the councilors here were there at the time that rule was set. And
Right.
did I misquote that? Or
No.
Right, and one of the thing is though that the beer garden has a security on who can be in there anyway. So they're already set up to keep folks out of there, so.
And at some point, we're gonna have to revisit the permit process anyways, because now we've got interest in the industrial park, which is not on the permit at all.
Right.
So we will have to revisit that.
But for this particular issue, the issue was whether or not we would add the park, the rest area to the park, which was a discussion in the past. And if we did, what area we were going to.
Right, and I think
I
it
believe that's what the motion is.
to ensure also that a portion of it is open to motorists, not,
Yes, sure.
not, that's the whole purpose, not the whole purpose, but part of the purpose of doing this.
And there's,
What you see with that red line, that gives you about a 25-foot long piece for the motoring public.
I would see more of a problem coming from the motoring public allowing their dogs to wander into the other area than they want to put their tent up in the dog booth. I mean, it goes both
No.
ways.
Sorry about your tent.
Yeah. All right, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote.
Mayor Sherry,
Aye.
Councilor Barclay,
Aye.
Councilor Basic, Councilor Fortune,
Aye.
Councilor Clark,
Aye.
Councilor Sadowski. Aye. Councilor Callahan.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to 8.0 police services.
Council, Mayor, I have the quarterly stat sheet again, like we presented last month, showing the 3-month comparison through September of this year to the last 2 years. I think the numbers are quite telling. I think Michael McPherson for creating this story, I think visually the impact is pretty strong, and the numbers are quite telling. Activities are up and busy. Number 2, we had the Fall Fun Night last night, and I'll put one of these out on the counter out here for the public also to take a look at our statistics. But the Fall Fun Night was a great success again last night. Once again, kudos to Michael McPherson in my office. You know, that event is not, there's no money coming from the city for that. It is all donations. It comes from all our businesses and our community members. And without them, we wouldn't have been nearly as successful. We wouldn't have the prizes and the candy and be able to get the event. We probably had 25 volunteers working, you know, setting it up, operating it, and then closing it all down in a very timely manner and kept the WAC clean. So a big thank you to the community for making that a safe place for people to bring their kids. We had several hundred kids there. It was quite busy. That's all.
Could I ask you a question on what your chart means, like, what's 3W, what area is that? That's, I'm assuming it's an area of the city.
Correct. The city is broken down into 4 zones, basically, and probably the simplest way to put it is, if you consider north of Highway 58 up to Crestview, is 1, 2 is from Crestview all the way to the south on the railroad track side of the city. 3 is down in the old Willamette City area over to Crestview, and then 4 is everything east from basically Crestview.
Admin, this is all calls or serves that do not result in a report being assigned. Can you spell out what those are?
For example, a noise complaint. And so an officer will go into the area, try and locate where the noise is coming from, and he's unable to locate it. So no report is generated. Citizen contacts. When somebody needs to be contacted, a motorist will call, say, I need to see an officer at Ray's parking lot. Well, what they want is directions, so there's no report taken. Minor issues that can be handled, which is basically advice or direction, those types of issues.
Any correlation between this, the peak in August versus July and September?
It's summer months. You get just that how it falls in with the weather and time of year.
Councilor Barton?
Just gonna say, looking at this, with the exception of miscellaneous and EMS, which Don Kordowski helped fix that number a bit, it looks to me like, like Councilor Fortune said, where we peaked in August, but the September numbers compared to August were pretty much down in all areas except for EMS and miscellaneous, so it's actually slowed a bit. Not hasn't dropped down, but, well, we went from 17 felonies to 14, 87 misdemeanors to 59, 28 juvenile to 19, and those are decreasing.
Well, you're getting out of that August time. That's when all the juveniles are super active and it's light.
Summer months, more traffic, more light.
Yeah,
Sure.
more people out moving around. Felonies is just kind of the luck of people out there being bad. And us having to clean them up.
And come December, January, it'd be too damn cold out to be bad.
It does slow them down, but last year I followed foot tracks from a burglary to the guy's house and the rest of it in the snow. So I like to see it.
Yeah, compliments to Michael, this is a very good visual.
Did they make that TV program?
Pardon?
Dumb felonies or whatever?
No, but there is a newspaper you can pick up at Rascals.
Oh,
It's called
yes, I've
Busted.
seen it, yeah.
And we've got 3 or 4 of our local people in this edition.
On the front page?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The chief was saying something, if you read this report, it's telling, what is it telling us? We don't know, we don't have the report, so we have no idea what you're talking about.
It's nice. It's nice to have power, not let me.
He's gonna put it there, he's gonna put a copy.
No, I mean, just explain it, that's all.
And probably is one we could put in a.
Thank you.
As long as I can wind up with one on the counter out here for everybody to share.
Stick it in the water bill.
Yeah, there's more copies if anybody wants.
Tell me.
How hard, city administrator, how hard was it? All right, thanks, chief. Other chiefs?
Mr. Mayor, Council, as you can see, our numbers are up as well. If you look at September, our average call volume is somewhere in 1.5 to 2 calls a day. September was very close to 3 a day. Most of those being transports, and one of the things we've been able to do with the second out ambulance and the second person on staff has been to answer those calls. Many of the things we triaged before, we're able to take care of those folks and get them into town. So you're seeing a change there. So on a different note, to echo Dr. Brodowski's observation about the bonfire, one of our employees, Chuck Koenig, was instrumental in making that happen. Yeah, he needs a kudo for that. I had about a day's notice. Mine's easy. I had to write a letter. Okay, he had to build a bonfire, and he was able to pull that off. And so he deserves a kudo for that. So thank you.
Boards and committees. Sure. I don't have my list in front of me, so I know where Apple's one. So we'll talk about that one.
You just have to
I don't have it.
Let me put it this way, it's probably easier for me rather to go down through a list of committees and stuff and have people tell me they don't have a report. It's probably easier to say, has anybody got a report on their committee?
Library,
Library committee?
they're moving the library this weekend, and dedication will be December 1st. So there's gonna be a lot of volunteers here, and we're moving all the books and everything as of Saturday morning, 8 a.m.
That's going through to the, is that just then, or is it going through to the?
It's just 2 days, but they
Two-day
don't get done on Saturday, finish off on Saturday.
Okay. That's a lot of books.
And that's a lot of books, and stuff. Do they need help?
Are they still gonna trundle them down through the,
They seem to have it all on in hand, so looking good.
they got a lot
But you
of
can show if you want.
Last I heard, they're going to get shopping carts from Ray's and trundle them down through the city hall there and out the front doors and stuff.
Yes. We're gonna put down cardboard into the new library, so we can run stuff in cardboard where it needs to be done. So we don't drag back and forth any wet if it happens to start doing that. This is, let's see, it's November, it's Oakridge, we might get wet, I don't know.
Probably.
I just wanted to mention that in the Register Guard, the Greater Oakridge Area Trail Stewards, Richie Goetz, was mentioned in the cleanup and the reopening of the Willamette Forest. Let's see what he said. District Ranger Dwayne Bishop credited the goats and the Disciples of Dirt for helping to get the trails open so soon. These folks went out there in rough weather and essentially rebuilt the portion of the trail that the fire ran over. So I thought that was cool.
That was cool, and in fact, they had a picture of the whole crew, I don't remember if it was in the Register Guard or what it was, but
Register.
out in the rain year. Yeah, I don't think people really understand quite all the things that the goats do, but they do a tremendous community service for not only the community, but the Forest Service and everybody else, and they do deserve kudos. Any other reports from boards or
The
committees?
administrative committee met, that
Okay.
was me and Louie and Ernie on his cell phone while he's driving.
You didn't hear that. You did not hear that.
It was hands-free.
It was hands-free.
That's right.
You done that on purpose.
Really wasn't much of a meeting, other than the fact that they, if anybody reported, but they had a meeting with Amtrak and that went well.
Yeah, we haven't covered that yet, so. Who was going to, excuse me.
And also, city administrator's meeting, has been meeting with other cities regarding the agreement with Chart. That's about all we did. And the Alcock doesn't meet, probably, I think the next meeting is in December.
Okay.
It's not yet.
Anything else?
We got a couple actually. I'm not seeing that in the minutes. There was an ACT meeting by, I want to say the 12th, but I don't think it's been recorded. Basically what the discussion was, obviously, with people that, I don't know, buy Prius twice. They're not getting the revenues off the gas taxes because people are going with high mile vehicles and it's not going to generate the revenue, so they were looking at alternatives to make up that revenue loss. The concern I voiced was you're kind of targeting an audience, but missing out on the high mileage vehicles driving through the state from somewhere else. And there was discussion, basically they, mostly Florence wants to put in 3 additional crosswalks where they would have 5 within a 6-block area. I'm thinking, well, we don't even have 1. At any rate, they just wanted the ACT endorsement and proceeding forward with that, but there was a lot of presentations and not a lot of action. That was about it for that meeting. We did have a public safety committee meeting today. It had been rescheduled, schedule conflicts or that sort of thing. And we did discuss the public nudity ordinance proposal, which has been discussed the last 2 or 3 meetings. The intent, by statute, Oregon has a condition that there has to be a sexual arousal connotation. For me, with 3 grandsons, 7 and younger, that's not really an issue, but basically, that is the statute. And the intent of the local ordinance was to bridge the gap between statute and common sense. But got back a response from the city attorney. Basically, an ordinance that would ban public nudity in the interest of common sense would exceed the statute, whereas we have to meet it in the statute, but that would exceed it, and it would fail miserably if somebody wanted to challenge that on constitutional grounds. And they cited a couple Supreme Court decisions, state Supreme Court decisions where cities fought that battle and lost